When was the last time you stood in front of the mirror and genuinely asked yourself, am I really living the life I want? Not the life your parents dreamed for you, not the one your friends admire, and definitely not the one that just seems right according to society. I'm talking about the life that speaks to your soul, the one that actually feels like you. Carl Jung, one of the most influential minds in modern psychology, gave us a powerful but often uncomfortable truth. You must choose yourself, even when it feels like the whole world is pulling you in another direction. Because let's be honest, we live in a world built to distract us. From the moment you open your eyes in the morning, you're hit with notifications, responsibilities, pressures, work deadlines, family needs, social expectations. A non-stop stream of things that seem urgent, but not always important, and definitely not always aligned with who you are deep down. It's easy to fall into that rhythm. Easy to believe that you're just doing what needs to be done. But here's a truth most people don't talk about. Every time you put everyone else before yourself, you send a quiet but damaging message to your inner self that you don't matter as much. That your needs, your dreams, your truth, they can wait. And yet there's that persistent whisper inside you. You know the one, that subtle discomfort, that inner tug when something just feels off. That's not random. That's not weakness. That's your soul trying to get your attention, trying to tell you that something's not right and it might be time to make a change, even if change is scary. So here's a question. How many of your recent decisions were made from a place of truth? And how many were based on fear? Fear of letting people down, fear of standing out, fear of stepping into unfamiliar territory. Jung taught that when we ignore that inner truth, we create chaos inside ourselves. The more we ignore who we are, the more lost we feel. But don't get it twisted. Choosing yourself doesn't mean turning your back on others. It's not about being selfish. It's about recognizing this core truth. In order to be the best version of yourself for others, you must first be true to you. That's the foundation of what Jung called self-love. And no, it's not just some feel-good slogan or trendy idea. Self-love is not about pampering yourself with spa days or bubble baths. It's about showing up for yourself consistently. It's about making the bold, sometimes painful decisions that bring you closer to who you really are. When you do that, when you prioritize yourself, something incredible happens. Your energy changes. You start attracting people, opportunities, and experiences that match your authentic self. The universe, it seems, starts to respond. It begins to remove what no longer fits and make space for what truly helps you grow. But there's a catch. Before you can truly live from that place of truth, you've got to confront the parts of yourself you've been avoiding. Jung called this the shadow. It's the side of you that hides all the uncomfortable truths, your insecurities, your regrets, your fears. It's everything you've pushed down because it was easier to pretend it wasn't there. And yeah, facing your shadow is hard. It can feel messy, emotional, even painful. But that's where the magic starts. Because when you stop running from those parts of yourself and begin to integrate them, accept them, even, you unlock a strength you didn't know you had. And no, it's not an overnight process. This kind of transformation takes time, patience, and brutal honesty. But what you gain in return is priceless. Clarity, you begin to see through the noise and lies you used to believe. Purpose, you start to understand what truly matters to you, not just what's been handed down or expected. Peace, a calm so deep that even life's chaos can't shake it. And maybe most importantly, you learn how to say no without guilt. You stop living to please others. You start making choices that align with your truth, without apology. So where do you start? Start by listening. Not to the world, but to you. The next time you feel unsettled, uncertain, or overwhelmed, pause. Instead of pushing those feelings away, ask yourself, what is my intuition trying to tell me right now? Because, as Jung once said, the answers you're looking for out there, they've always been within. We just need the courage to hear them, and the bravery to act on them. Now let's talk about what makes this so hard. One of the most difficult things any of us will ever do is follow our intuition, especially when it leads us to places that challenge everything we've built. Maybe it's a relationship that no longer feels right. Maybe it's a job that's slowly draining your soul. Or maybe it's a dream that once inspired you but now just feels like a burden. We hold on to these things because they're familiar, because they feel safe, because we've built our identity around them. And so we convince ourselves, better the devil you know. But Jung challenges us to see change not as an ending, but as a beginning, a doorway to something more real, more you. So here's another question worth asking. What are you still clinging to out of fear? What people, habits, or beliefs are you keeping around? Not because they uplift you, but because letting go feels too uncomfortable. It's okay to feel afraid, but it's not okay to let that fear stop you from living the life you were meant to live. And yes, letting go can feel like loss, but the real loss, that happens when you trade your inner peace for someone else's comfort, when you silence your truth just to fit in. Choosing yourself means honoring that voice within, even when it whispers something radically different than what the world expects. Even when it's hard, even when it costs you. Because here's what no one tells you. Every time you choose yourself, you don't become less, you become more. So let's get this straight. Choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's an act of deep self-respect. We've been conditioned for so long to believe that putting our needs first is somehow wrong, that it's cold, egotistical, even shameful. But here's the truth that flips that narrative on its head. When you finally decide to prioritize yourself, something powerful starts to happen. It's like a fog lifts. Suddenly, things that used to confuse you become clear. People who drained you start to disappear, and the ones who truly care, the ones who see you, value you, support you, they stay. It's no coincidence. That shift you feel inside, that's real, that's energy, that's alignment. Carl Jung had a term for this. It's called synchronicity. It's the idea that when you're living in harmony with your true self, the outside world begins to mirror that transformation. The people you meet, the opportunities that show up, the timing of everything, none of it is random. It's like the universe says, finally, you're showing up as you, now let's get to work. But let's be honest, this path isn't easy. Choosing yourself requires one of the hardest things we can ever do, radical honesty. It's not just about setting boundaries or making bold moves. Sometimes it means looking in the mirror and admitting truths you've tried to avoid. Maybe you've made choices that didn't reflect who you really are. Maybe you let people walk all over your boundaries. Maybe you said yes when you really wanted to scream no, just to avoid letting someone down. But here's the key. This isn't about judging yourself. It's about learning. It's about growing. Jung taught that authenticity isn't a destination, it's a lifelong process. You don't just arrive one day and declare, okay, I'm finally being true to myself. No, it's a constant dance between knowing who you are and choosing to act from that place every single day. And some days, you're gonna mess it up. You'll fall back into old habits, you'll doubt yourself. You'll feel the urge to shrink, to hide, to go back to what's comfortable. That's normal. Growth isn't linear, and the most meaningful transformation never happens in your comfort zone. It happens when you're stretched, challenged, and just a little bit scared. That's where the magic is. And yeah, the world won't always get it. When you stop seeking approval and start choosing your truth, some people will be confused. Some might criticize you. Some might even distance themselves. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because you're no longer fitting into the version of you they were comfortable with. And yes, that hurts. It's painful to lose connections. It's painful to realize that some relationships were built on the version of you who never said no. The version of you who tolerated things, stayed quiet, kept the peace. But here's the beautiful part. When you step into your truth, you don't just lose people. You make space for better ones. Real ones. People who love you not for what you can do for them, but for who you truly are. And when that shift happens, your relationships deepen. You stop chasing approval and start craving authenticity. You stop settling for surface-level conversations and start desiring connections that feed your soul. It's not just life-changing, it's life-giving. Because when you choose yourself, you stop living in fear. You stop molding yourself to fit into other people's expectations. You stop apologizing for your dreams, your voice, your needs. Instead, you begin to attract people and situations that reflect your truth. That's not magic, that's alignment. Jung spoke often about how our inner world creates our outer experience. If you're filled with conflict on the inside, your life will mirror that. If you're constantly rejecting your own needs, you'll attract relationships and situations that do the same. But if you accept yourself, if you choose to live from your center, the world begins to reflect that too. And sure, this kind of change doesn't happen overnight. It's a practice, a muscle you build one choice at a time. There will be days you doubt everything. Days when old fears pop back up. Days when people guilt trip you. Days when being authentic feels more like a risk than a reward. But this is where your true strength is tested. Every time you choose your inner peace over outer expectations, you grow. Every time you say no to what drains you and yes to what fuels you, you align deeper with your truth. And that's when everything changes. Let's talk about something we don't often discuss: sacrifice. We live in a culture that glorifies self-sacrifice, especially if you're someone who's always been the helper, the fixer, the one who holds everything together. You're told it's noble to give and give, even when you're running on empty. But what happens when your cup is dry? What happens when you give so much that you forget who you are? Here's a hard truth: you can't truly give to others if you're constantly betraying yourself. Jung said you cannot give what you do not possess. That means if you're offering love, support, energy, but you have none of those things left for yourself, you're not giving from a place of truth. You're giving from depletion, from obligation, from fear. And eventually that shows up as burnout, as resentment, as emotional exhaustion. So ask yourself, what are your relationships costing you? Which ones fill you up, and which ones leave you drained? Jung reminds us that relationships are mirrors. They reflect your internal state. If you constantly find yourself surrounded by people who cross boundaries, who leave you feeling small, it's worth asking, what part of you still believes that's okay? This isn't about blame, it's about awareness. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you're shutting people out. It means you're creating space for healthier, more honest relationships to thrive. It's saying, this is where I end and you begin. It's teaching people how to love and respect you by showing them how you love and respect yourself. And when you do that, your intuition gets louder. That inner voice that once felt so faint now speaks with clarity. It starts guiding you, not just emotionally, but practically. You make decisions not just because they make sense on paper, but because they feel right in your gut. Jung saw intuition as a sacred bridge between the conscious and unconscious mind. That quiet nudge, that deep knowing, is often more accurate than all the logic in the world. But to hear it, you've got to quiet the noise. You've got to stop asking everyone else for their opinion and start trusting yourself. Because no one else can know what's best for you. Not your parents, not your partner, not your friends. Only you. When you finally make that decision, when you say, I'm ready to choose me, the universe listens. Suddenly things click, people show up, doors open. And even the challenges that come your way, they don't feel like barriers anymore. They feel like lessons, opportunities to grow, to evolve, to step more fully into your purpose. That's the beauty of choosing yourself. You stop surviving, and you start living. And here's where it all comes together. When you choose to live in alignment with your truth, something incredible happens. Life starts to flow. What once felt like an uphill battle begins to feel more like movement, like momentum. And you start to realize, this is what living was always meant to feel like. But don't be fooled. Just because things start aligning doesn't mean the road becomes easy. In fact, some of your biggest challenges might show up after you decide to choose yourself. It's almost like the world pushes back a little, testing you. Are you serious about this? Are you really ready to leave behind what no longer fits? And honestly, that pushback can shake you. You'll feel the tug of old habits, the guilt of disappointing others, the fear of walking away from the familiar. But in those moments when doubt creeps in, remember this. Every time you stand your ground, every time you stay true to yourself despite the fear, you become stronger, more certain, more you. That's where your power lies. Because here's the thing, we all crave clarity. We all want to feel like our life has meaning, that our actions matter, that we're not just spinning our wheels. But clarity doesn't show up randomly. It comes from doing the work, from getting still, from reflecting on what truly matters to you. Ask yourself, what do I value? What kind of life do I want to build? The more you connect with your core values, the easier it becomes to make choices that support them. And as you do, the world around you begins to respond in kind. You start meeting people who get it. You find paths you never noticed before. You feel supported, even if the journey began alone. Because here's the truth. While choosing yourself may start as a solo decision, it never stays that way. You'll find your people, the ones who have made similar choices, the ones who cheer for you not because you serve their needs, but because they see your light and it inspires their own. And when that happens, everything shifts. Decisions feel clearer, boundaries come easier, and most importantly, you experience a kind of peace that no external achievement could ever give you. Because for the first time, you're not trying to become someone, you're simply being who you already are. And that peace, that sense of wholeness, it's not just for you. It ripples outward. You start to inspire others, not by preaching, but simply by living. Your authenticity becomes a quiet invitation for others to explore their own. You show people through your presence that it's safe to be real, that it's okay to let go of the masks, that they too can step into their truth. Jung understood this deeply. He believed that individual transformation doesn't happen in isolation. Every time one person chooses authenticity, it impacts the collective. It creates a shift, a ripple that reaches families, communities, even the culture at large. So yes, choosing yourself changes everything. But don't expect the journey to be perfect. It won't be. There will be days when you feel aligned, clear, and confident. And then there will be days where you feel lost again, unsure, disconnected, tempted to go back to your old ways. That's part of the process. It's not failure. It's simply the work of becoming. Jung believed that the path to wholeness is not linear. It's a spiral. We revisit the same lessons again and again, but from new levels of awareness. With each return, we understand more. We see ourselves more clearly. So when the doubts return, let them. Just don't let them lead. Pause, reflect, breathe, reconnect with your truth, remember why you started, and keep going. And along the way, look for the signs, the subtle synchronicities, the moments that feel too perfect to be random. These are not coincidences, they are confirmations. They are the universe's way of saying you're on the right path. Maybe it's a conversation that hits just right. Maybe it's a video like this, showing up in your feed at the exact moment you needed it. Maybe it's an opportunity you didn't even know you were looking for. These are all reminders. Reminders that every choice you've made, every difficult decision, every tear, every moment of courage has led you here. And if you're still watching this, that means something. It means you're ready. You're ready to stop living for everyone else. You're ready to stop chasing approval and start chasing purpose. You're ready to choose yourself. Not the version of you others expect, not the one you created to fit in, but the real you, the one that's always been there, patiently waiting beneath the noise. So here's your invitation, not just to think about it, but to act. Take one step today. It doesn't have to be big. Maybe it's saying no to something that drains you. Maybe it's setting a boundary. Maybe it's journaling about what you really want. Maybe it's just sitting in stillness, listening to what your soul has been trying to tell you for years. Whatever it is, let that be your beginning. Because the moment you start choosing yourself, moment by moment, choice by choice, your life begins to transform. And not just for you. You light the way for others, too. So ask yourself, what would life look like if I let go of everything that no longer serves me? What would it feel like to stop carrying the weight of expectations I never agreed to? What kind of freedom could I create if I just trusted myself? This isn't some far-off dream. It's within reach, right now, today. It starts the moment you stop looking outside for what has always lived within. And if this message resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs it, someone who's at their breaking point, someone who's ready for a shift but doesn't know where to begin. You never know how one message, one moment can completely change a life. Leave a comment. Tell me what part of this spoke to your heart. What's the one step you're willing to take today to honor your truth? And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the notification bell. Because this channel isn't just a place for content. It's a space for transformation, for community, for people like you who are ready to live boldly and authentically. Remember this, the world doesn't need more people living by default. It needs more people with the courage to be real, to live with intention, to choose themselves. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. But most importantly, thank you for choosing you. Because the moment you do, your life begins. And the world gets just a little brighter because of it.